The ivory wedding invitation trembled in my hands as I dialed Andrew's number, eager to discuss his big day. When he answered, his voice was tense, uncomfortable. Then came words that shattered my world. "Mom, I think it's better if you don't attend." When I asked why, his response sliced through my heart like a blade. "You're too ugly to attend my wedding, Mom. Your face, I'm afraid you'll embarrass me in front of Meredith's family. 50 years of love and sacrifice, reduced to my scarred face." I sat alone at my kitchen table, the wedding invitation still clutched in my trembling hands. Tears slid down my cheeks, following the familiar paths of my scars. 25 years had passed since the accident, yet in this moment, the pain felt as fresh as the day it happened. The memory came rushing back with startling clarity. A rainy Tuesday afternoon in April. Andrew was only 8 years old, waiting at school for me to pick him up. I was running late after a doctor's appointment. The roads were slick, visibility poor. I remember the blinding headlights of the truck that swerved into my lane, the deafening crash, the searing pain as the windshield shattered, sending glass slicing across the left side of my face. When I woke in the hospital 3 days later, my first thought was Andrew. My second was the strange numbness on one side of my face. The doctor's expressions told me everything before they spoke a word. Extensive damage, multiple surgery, permanent scarring. Thomas, my husband, was my rock during those early months of recovery. He never flinched when looking at me, never treated me differently. "You're still my Isabel," he would say, tracing gentle fingers along the undamaged side of my face. "Still beautiful to me." But Thomas wouldn't be there to buffer the cruelty of the outside world. Just 2 years after my accident, when Andrew was 10, Thomas collapsed at work. Heart attack, sudden and fatal. I became a widow and a single mother in one devastating afternoon. The financial reality hit quickly. Our savings would only last so long. Despite my facial scarring, I secured a position as a hospital receptionist. The administrator who hired me had lost her husband to cancer and recognized something in me, a determination perhaps. "People might stare," she warned gently. "Are you prepared for that?" I was, or at least I thought I was. The stares I could handle. The occasional gasps from children, the quickly averted eyes, the awkward conversations where people struggled to maintain eye contact. What I hadn't anticipated was how it would affect Andrew. During the day, I answered phones and managed appointments at Lincoln Memorial Hospital. At night, after Andrew went to bed, I did bookkeeping for 3 local businesses. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford, but Andrew never went without. Soccer cleats, science camp, braces, all the normal expenses of raising a child somehow got paid. I never missed a school event, though I learned to position myself strategically, the scarred side of my face angled away from the crowd. At Andrew's first piano recital, I sat in the back corner, swelling with pride as his small fingers moved confidently across the keys. At his soccer games, I cheered from the far end of the field, always present, but careful not to draw attention. The teenage years were hardest. Andrew entered high school and suddenly became acutely aware of my appearance. During his freshman year, he asked me to drop him off a block from school. "Just for convenience, Mom," he claimed, though we both knew the truth. The parent-teacher conferences were the first time he directly asked me not to come inside. "Can you just wait in the car? Mrs. Peterson already knows you work 2 jobs. We don't need to go through the whole thing." I waited in the parking lot, watching other parents stream in and out. Mothers with smooth faces and fashionable clothes, fathers with confident strides. I told myself it was normal teenage embarrassment, not specific to my scars. I almost believed it. College seemed to bring a change. Distance perhaps gave him perspective. During his sophomore year at Westfield State, he called me just to talk for the first time since high school. By his junior year, he invited me to campus for Parents' Weekend. I wore a scarf draped partially over the left side of my face, but Andrew surprised me by gently removing it before introducing me to his roommate. "This is my mom," he said simply. "No explanations or apologies. She's the reason I'm here." The pride I felt that day carried me through many difficult nights afterward. At his graduation, he introduced me to his professors with his arm around my shoulders. My mom worked 2 jobs so I could go to college, he told his economics professor, who shook my hand with genuine respect. After graduation, Andrew moved to Boston and joined an investment firm. His calls became less frequent as he climbed the corporate ladder, but I understood. He was building his life, just as I had always hoped he would. 2 years ago, he mentioned a woman named Meredith. "She's special, Mom," he said, an unfamiliar softness in his voice. "You'll like her." Meredith Harrison, I later learned, came from a wealthy Connecticut family. Old money, prestigious connections, summer homes in exclusive locations. Andrew spoke of her with a mixture of adoration and disbelief that someone like her would choose someone like him. I scrolled through Andrew's social media often, hungry for glimpses of his life. In recent months, I'd noticed numerous photos of him with Meredith and her family. The Harrisons appeared polished and perfect, exactly the type of people who would notice and judge facial scarring. After hearing Andrew's devastating words about the wedding, I called my best friend Judy. She had known me since before the accident, one of the few people who could still look at me and see past the scars to the woman beneath. He said, "What?" Judy's outrage burned through the phone line. "After everything you've done? I'm coming over right now. Then we're driving to Boston to give that boy a piece of my mind." "No," I said, though part of me wanted to accept her offer. "That won't help." After we hung up, I sat in silence, staring at the wedding invitation. Something compelled me to open my laptop and look at Andrew's social media again. There were dozens of recent photos with the Harrisons, Andrew looking perfectly at ease among their wealthy circle. He and Meredith's father appeared particularly close, golf clubs and business attire featuring prominently. On impulse, I searched for older photos, scrolling back to his college graduation. There it was, the image that now broke my heart anew. Andrew with his arm proudly around me, his face turned toward mine with genuine affection, not a hint of shame or embarrassment. The caption read, "Couldn't have done it without you, Mom. Love you." What had changed? When had my face become too shameful to share with his new life? The contrast between that graduation photo and his cruel words today left me reeling. This wasn't the son I thought I knew. This betrayal cut deeper than any rejection from strangers ever had. The week after Andrew's phone call, I spiraled into a depression unlike anything I'd experienced since Thomas died. I stopped going to my volunteer shifts at the library. I called in sick to work twice, something I'd never done before. Food lost its taste. Sleep eluded me. Late one night, unable to rest, I found myself researching plastic surgery options, facial reconstruction, scar revision, skin grafting. The procedures were complex, the recovery times lengthy, the costs astronomical. $50,000, $70,000. Amounts I could never afford on my modest income and meager savings. My bathroom mirror became an enemy. I stood before it, tracing the jagged lines that ran from my left temple down to the corner of my mouth. 25 years, and the scars still looked angry, puckered and discolored against my otherwise ordinary features. Would it be worth it? I whispered to my reflection. To go into debt at 63 just to be acceptable to my son and his new family? Days passed in a fog. I stopped collecting my mail, stopped watering my small garden, stopped living in any meaningful way. The wedding was 4 months away. 4 months of this hollow ache in my chest. On the 10th day, a knock at my door roused me from the couch where I'd been sitting in the same bathrobe since morning. I considered not answering, but the knocking persisted. Franklin Peters stood on my porch, a bundle of mail in his hands. Franklin had moved into the house next door 3 years ago, after retiring from his position as a psychology professor at the community college. "Your mailbox was overflowing," he explained, handing me the stack. I was worried. I must have looked terrible. Unwashed hair, red-rimmed eyes, wrinkled robe. But Franklin's gaze held no pity, just genuine concern. "Would you like to come in for coffee?" The words surprised me as much as him. I hadn't felt like company in days, Yet something about his kind eyes made the invitation feel right. That evening, sitting across from Franklin at my kitchen table, the story spilled out: Andrew's engagement, the wedding invitation, the phone call, the cruel words about my appearance. Franklin listened without interruption. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "May I come back tomorrow?" he finally asked. "I'd like to continue our conversation, if you're willing." He returned the next evening, and the next after that. Our talks moved from my kitchen to my living room, where I found myself sharing photo albums I hadn't opened in years. Pictures of Andrew as a baby in Thomas's arms. Andrew's first day of school. Soccer trophies. Piano recitals. "You were a devoted mother," Franklin observed on our fourth evening together. "Still are." "Fat lot of good it did," I replied bitterly. "My son is ashamed of me." Franklin shook his head slowly. "This isn't about your face, Isabel. It's about Andrew's character." His words struck me with the force of revelation. All this time, I'd been blaming my scars, my appearance, myself. But the problem wasn't my face. It was whatever was happening in Andrew's heart that made him value superficial acceptance over the mother who had sacrificed everything for him. "So what do I do?" I asked. "I can't force him to want me at his wedding." "No," Franklin agreed. "But perhaps the question isn't whether you should attend the wedding. Perhaps it's whether you should allow yourself to be erased from your son's life entirely." That night, after Franklin left, I sat at my computer with a new sense of purpose. I wasn't going to fade away. I wasn't going to accept being hidden like something shameful. My son needed a lesson about what truly matters, and somehow, I would be the one to teach it. I began researching Meredith Harrison and her family more thoroughly. The Harrisons were indeed wealthy, with a family foundation that supported various causes. Their annual charity gala was mentioned in several society pages. This year's event would be held at the Grand Plaza Hotel, just 3 weeks before Andrew and Meredith's wedding. The gala's focus caught my attention immediately: honoring courage, supporting veterans and families. The Harrison Family Foundation provided resources for veterans with service-related injuries and disabilities. As I dug deeper into social media, I found Meredith's accounts. Unlike Andrew's carefully curated images, Meredith's posts seemed genuine and warm. She worked as a pediatric occupational therapist, specializing in helping children with physical differences. Her most recent post sent a chill through me. "Just 56 more days until I become Mrs. Andrew Morris. So many details to finalize, but most excited about finally meeting my future mother-in-law. Andrew rarely talks about her, but I can't wait to know the woman who raised the man I love. Countdown to forever meeting family." I stared at the screen in disbelief. Meredith was expecting to meet me. Andrew hadn't told her I wouldn't be attending. What exactly had he told her about me? The next day, I received an unexpected phone call. The screen displayed a number I didn't recognize, with a Connecticut area code. "Hello, is this Isabel Morris?" A young woman's voice asked when I answered. "Yes, this is she." "Hi, Isabel. This is Meredith Harrison, Andrew's fiancée. I hope it's okay that I'm calling. I got your number from Andrew's phone." My heart pounded painfully. "Of course, Meredith. It's nice to finally speak with you." "Same here. I was just calling about your RSVP for the wedding. We haven't received it yet, and I wanted to make sure the invitation didn't get lost in the mail or something." I gripped the phone tightly, my mind racing. I've been meaning to talk to Andrew about that." "Oh," Meredith sounded concerned. "Is everything okay? You'll be there, won't you? I've been so looking forward to meeting you." "That's very kind," I managed. "I'm not sure yet about my plans. It's complicated." "Well, I hope whatever it is works out. Andrew doesn't talk much about his childhood, but I know you mean the world to him. He wouldn't want you to miss our special day." After we hung up, I sat in stunned silence. Andrew had portrayed himself as a loving son to Meredith, while telling me I was too ugly to attend his wedding. The depth of his deception was staggering. That evening, I searched more extensively for information about Meredith. I found articles about her work with children with facial differences, photos of her volunteering at camps for kids with burns and scars. She seemed genuinely committed to accepting and celebrating people regardless of appearance. The following morning, another unexpected call came from Connecticut. "Mrs. Morris? This is Patricia Harrison, Meredith's mother." "Hello, Mrs. Harrison. Please, call me Patricia. I'm calling about the bridal shower we're planning for Meredith. It's going to be a surprise, 2 weeks before the wedding. We'd love for you to attend." "That's very kind, but I'm not sure I'll be able to make it," I replied carefully. "Oh, I do hope you can. It would mean so much to Meredith. She's been telling everyone how excited she is to finally meet you. She feels like she already knows you from all the stories Andrew's shared about how you raised him alone after his father passed." I nearly dropped the phone. "He talks about me?" "Oh yes," Patricia continued cheerfully. "He's told us how brave you were after losing your husband to cancer when Andrew was young, how you worked so hard to give him opportunities. We're all looking forward to honoring your memory together at the wedding." "My memory?" Patricia continued, oblivious to my shocked silence. "Andrew said it's been, 7 years since you passed? He said it still feels like yesterday sometimes. Such a tragedy. Cancer is so cruel." The room seemed to spin around me. Andrew hadn't just excluded me from his wedding. He had erased me completely. In his new narrative, I was dead. A convenient story that eliminated the need to explain my scarred face to his perfect new family. That night, I couldn't sleep. My son had killed me off rather than acknowledge my existence. The betrayal cut so deeply I could barely breathe thinking about it. The next morning, I called in sick to work again. I sat at my computer, searching for something, anything that might help me process this pain. Eventually, I found a listing for a support group for people with visible differences. They met on Thursday evenings at the community center. When Thursday arrived, I nearly talked myself out of going a dozen times. I stood outside the community center for 20 minutes, watching people enter, gathering my courage. Finally, I pushed open the door and followed the signs to room 103. 8 people sat in a circle of chairs. They looked up as I entered, and for once, no one's gaze lingered uncomfortably on my scars. "Welcome," said a woman with short gray hair. "I'm Susan, the group facilitator. Please join us." I took an empty seat, hands fidgeting nervously in my lap. As we went around the circle introducing ourselves, I was struck by the diversity of the group. James, a young man with extensive burn scars covering one side of his face and neck. Lucia, a middle-aged woman missing her right ear from a dog attack. Robert, who had a large port wine stain covering half his face. Each person shared briefly about living with their visible difference. When my turn came, I spoke haltingly at first, then, with increasing confidence, "I'm Isabel. Car accident, 25 years ago. I thought I'd made peace with my scars until recently." After the formal meeting ended, a woman approached me as I gathered my purse to leave. She appeared to be in her early 50s, with burn scars running down her neck and disappearing beneath the collar of her blouse. "First meetings are the hardest," she said with a warm smile. "I'm Grace." "Isabel. Coffee?" she suggested, pointing to a small table with refreshments. "I own a boutique downtown. You get good at reading people when you work in retail, and you look like someone who could use a friendly ear." Over coffee, Grace listened as I shared an abbreviated version of my story, focusing on Andrew's wedding rejection, rather than the even more painful discovery that he'd been telling people I was dead. "What a load of garbage," Grace said flatly when I finished. "Sorry, but there's no sugarcoating that kind of behavior." I found myself smiling at her bluntness. "No, there really isn't. Listen," Grace leaned forward. "I need part-time help at my shop. My assistant just left for college. It's nothing fancy, just organizing inventory, helping customers. But it might do you good to get out, be around different people." "I already have a job at the hospital," I protested. "Evenings, Saturdays, whatever works for you." She handed me a business card. "Unique boutique. We cater to women who don't fit cookie-cutter fashion. Think about it." I did think about it, all the way home and through a restless night. The next morning, I called the number on Grace's card and accepted her offer to work Saturday afternoons and 2 evenings a week. The boutique was nothing like I'd imagined. Located in a converted Victorian house, each room offered different types of clothing and accessories. Grace's customer base was surprisingly diverse, from teenage girls to elderly women, all seeking something they couldn't find in department stores. My third week working at Unique Boutique, a girl about 16 came in with her mother. The girl had a large birthmark covering one side of her face. Her shoulders were hunched, her eyes downcast as she browsed the prom dress section. "Isabel," Grace called, "could you help Amber find something for her prom?" I approached the girl carefully. "Looking for something special?" She nodded without meeting my eyes. "I was thinking something with an asymmetrical neckline," I suggested. "Draw the eye down and across, create visual interest at the collarbone." Amber finally looked up, her eyes widening slightly as she noticed my scars. "Car accident," I said simply. 25 years ago. Your birthmark is actually a lovely color against your skin tone. We should find something that complements it, rather than trying to hide it." For the next hour, I helped Amber try on dresses, each one selected to work with her features rather than against them. When she finally emerged in a deep purple gown with a draped neckline, her mother gasped. "You look beautiful, honey." Amber studied herself in the mirror, standing straighter than when she'd entered. For the first time, she smiled. After they left with the purchased dress, Grace squeezed my shoulder. "That's why I hired you. You get it." That evening, my phone rang with another call from Connecticut. Meredith again. This time with questions about the wedding. "I was wondering if you'd be comfortable doing a reading during the ceremony. Andrew said you used to read to him every night as a child, and I thought it would be a lovely tribute." I hesitated, unsure how to respond without revealing Andrew's lies. "I'm touched that you'd ask, but I'm not certain about my plans yet. Is everything okay? You sound upset." "It's complicated, Meredith. Have you and Andrew discussed my attendance at the wedding?" "Well, no, not specifically. I just assumed you'd be there. You're his mother. Perhaps you should talk to Andrew about it." "I will," she promised, concern evident in her voice. "And please let me know if there's anything I can do to help with whatever's going on." After hanging up, I spent the evening researching Meredith more thoroughly. Her dedication to working with children with facial differences seemed genuine. She regularly posted about her young patients' achievements, always with their parents' permission, celebrating their milestones and courage. In one video, she worked with a young boy with a cleft palate, patiently helping him with speech exercises. "Remember, Carter, what makes you different makes you special," she encouraged him. The disconnect between Meredith's apparent values and Andrew's behavior grew more confusing the more I learned. My research led me deeper into the Harrison family history. William Harrison, Meredith's father, had served in the military before building his successful investment firm. The family foundation was well established, supporting various medical and veteran-focused initiatives. Just as I was about to close my laptop for the night, I found an interview with William Harrison in a business magazine. The accompanying photo showed a distinguished man in his 60s with a facial scar running from his right temple down his cheek, partially concealed by a well-groomed beard. The article explained that William had sustained the injury during military service, and that this personal experience had inspired the family's extensive work with wounded veterans. "Physical differences don't define character," he was quoted as saying. "My scar reminds me daily of the sacrifice many have made, and of our obligation to see beyond the surface." I stared at William Harrison's photo for a long time, pieces clicking into place. Andrew's future father-in-law had facial scarring, yet Andrew had told me I was too ugly to attend his wedding. It made no sense, unless Andrew had been hiding the truth about William's appearance from me, just as he'd been hiding the truth about my existence from the Harrisons. The depth of Andrew's deception was breathtaking. He had created entirely separate narratives, tailored for each audience, never expecting the different sides of his life to intersect. The discovery of William Harrison's scar and Andrew's lies about my death pushed me past my breaking point. I called in sick to both jobs the next day, something I'd never done before. I sat on my couch in the dark, curtains drawn, replaying Andrew's cruel words again and again. "You're too ugly to attend my wedding, Mom. Your face. I'm afraid you'll embarrass me. Yet, he was marrying into a family where the patriarch had his own facial scar. A family that worked extensively with people with physical differences. The contradiction was maddening. By evening, I was desperate to talk to someone. I called both Grace and Franklin, asking if they could come over. When they arrived, I poured out everything, including the devastating revelation that Andrew had been telling Meredith's family I died of cancer years ago. That little weasel, Grace fumed, pacing my living room. You need to call him right now and confront him. I agree, Franklin said more calmly. This deception has gone far beyond rudeness or embarrassment. He's created an elaborate fiction that will inevitably collapse. And then what? I asked. He apologizes, feels ashamed for a few days, then goes back to being embarrassed by me? I need him to truly understand what he's done. What do you have in mind? Grace asked, settling back into her chair. I took a deep breath. The Harrison family hosts an annual charity gala 3 weeks before the wedding. This year it benefits their foundation for veterans with service-related injuries. I want to attend. Franklin raised his eyebrows. As yourself? Won't Andrew be there? Yes. I nodded. That's the point. But I won't ambush him publicly. I'll introduce myself to the Harrisons first, privately. They deserve to know the truth before their daughter marries my son. It could get messy, Grace warned. It's already messy, I replied. Andrew made it messy when he decided I was better off dead than scarred. We talked late into the night, refining my approach. I wouldn't attend seeking revenge or to publicly humiliate Andrew. My goal was simply truth, and perhaps, if I was being honest with myself, a chance to know the family my son was joining. Over the next few weeks, I continued attending the support group on Thursdays. Each meeting strengthened my resolve and helped me practice telling my story with dignity rather than shame. I joined a community public speaking group that met on Tuesday evenings, forcing myself to stand before strangers and speak confidently despite their initial glances at my scars. The first time I told my entire story to the group, including Andrew's rejection, my voice shook and tears threatened. By the third time I could speak clearly, making eye contact, standing tall. One afternoon, while sorting mail at home, I found an official-looking letter from a law firm in Vermont. My sister Elaine had moved there 30 years ago, and we'd barely spoken since. The letter informed me that our elderly Aunt Margaret had passed away 6 months earlier, leaving her modest estate to be divided between Elaine and me. The inheritance wasn't large, $28,000, but it represented freedom I hadn't experienced in decades. I wouldn't need to worry about the cost of attending the gala or purchasing appropriate attire. For the first time, I could focus on the message I wanted to convey rather than the financial constraints that had defined so much of my life. The weekend before the gala, Grace took me shopping. We bypassed the department stores and headed to a small boutique specializing in evening wear. Don't even think about high necklines or scarves, Grace warned as we entered. Nothing that looks like you're hiding. We spent hours trying on dresses, rejecting anything that seemed either too flamboyant or too matronly. Finally, I emerged from the dressing room in a floor-length navy gown with 3/4 sleeves and a modest V-neck. The simple, elegant cut complemented my figure, and the color brought out the blue of my eyes. That's it, Grace said quietly. You look beautiful, Isabel. I turned to the mirror, studying my reflection. My gray hair was neatly styled, and the dress fit perfectly. My scars were visible, but they didn't define me. For the first time in years, perhaps decades, I felt something close to confidence. As the gala approached, I researched the Harrison family history more thoroughly, particularly William's military service and the Foundation's work. If I was going to attend their charity event, I wanted to do so as a genuinely interested supporter, not just someone with a personal agenda. William had served as a Marine, sustaining his facial injury during a deployment to the Middle East in the early 90s. After returning home, he had expanded his family's investment firm while establishing the foundation with his wife Patricia. Their philanthropic work focused primarily on veterans with physical injuries and their families, providing everything from medical treatment to career counseling. My research confirmed what I had begun to suspect. The Harrisons were not the superficial, appearance-obsessed people Andrew had implied. They were a family with deep personal experience of the challenges faced by those with visible differences, dedicated to making a meaningful difference in others' lives. The contrast with Andrew's behavior could not have been starker. He had leveraged his connection to the Harrison family for professional advancement while simultaneously hiding and lying about his own mother's existence. The more I learned, the more certain I became that the Harrisons deserved to know the truth before welcoming Andrew into their family. The day before the gala, I received another surprising call. This time, it was from William Harrison himself. "Mrs. Morris? This is William Harrison, Meredith's father." "Mr. Harrison," I managed, heart pounding. "How can I help you?" "Please, call me William. I understand you've made a donation to our foundation's veteran support program. I make it a point to personally thank first-time donors." The donation had been modest, $500 from my inheritance, made when I registered for the gala. "That's very kind," I said. "Your foundation does important work. May I ask what prompted your interest in our organization? We're always curious about what brings new supporters to our cause." I hesitated only briefly. I have some personal experience with how physical differences can impact one's life. I was in a car accident many years ago that left me with facial scarring. Your foundation's mission resonates with me. "I understand completely," William replied warmly. "I have some facial scarring myself, from military service. It changes how the world sees you, doesn't it? And sometimes how you see yourself." "Yes," I agreed quietly. "It does." "Well, Mrs. Morris, I look forward to meeting you at the gala tomorrow evening. Please find me and introduce yourself. I'd enjoy continuing our conversation." After we hung up, I sat in stunned silence. I had just spoken directly with my son's future father-in-law, a man Andrew believed would be so repulsed by my scarred face that he couldn't bear to have me at the wedding. Yet William's own experiences had made him compassionate and understanding about physical differences. The final piece of my plan fell into place. I would attend the gala not to create a scene, but to speak truth into a situation built on lies. Whatever happened next would be Andrew's choice, but I would no longer accept being erased from his life as though I were something shameful. The evening of the gala arrived clear and mild for early June. I spent hours preparing, taking unusual care with my appearance. My hands trembled slightly as I applied makeup, not to hide my scars but to enhance my better features. Grace had helped me select simple pearl earrings and a matching necklace that drew attention to my eyes rather than the scarred side of my face. As Franklin drove me to the Grand Plaza Hotel, I rehearsed what I might say when I inevitably encountered Andrew. My goal wasn't to embarrass or punish him, but to give him the opportunity to correct his own lies before they spiraled further. "Remember," Franklin said, as he pulled up to the hotel entrance, "you have every right to be here. You made a legitimate donation. You support the cause. You belong just as much as anyone else attending." The hotel ballroom was transformed for the occasion. Elegant flower arrangements and subtle lighting, creating an atmosphere of refined celebration. Guests in formal attire clustered in conversation groups, champagne glasses in hand. A small orchestra played classical music in one corner. After checking in and receiving my name badge, I made a beeline for the bar. Not for alcohol, though the thought was tempting, but to gather myself before facing the crowd. "Sparkling water, please," I requested from the bartender, who handed me a crystal flute without a second glance at my scars. I surveyed the room, searching for either Andrew or the Harrisons, unsure which I dreaded encountering first. Before I could spot any familiar faces, a woman approached me directly. "Mrs. Morris? Isabel?" she asked with a warm smile. Her silver-streaked dark hair was elegantly styled, her black evening gown understated yet clearly expensive. "Yes," I replied, extending my hand. "And you are?" "Patricia Harrison, Meredith's mother." William mentioned you'd be attending tonight. He was so pleased by your donation and your interest in our foundation. Patricia's gaze met mine directly. No awkward flicker toward my scars. No artificial brightness compensating for discomfort. Just genuine welcome. Thank you for having me, I said. Your family's work is impressive. Oh, it's William's passion project, really. After his injury, he became determined to help others facing similar challenges. She glanced around the room. He's here somewhere, speaking with donors. He specifically asked me to introduce you if I found you first. Patricia led me through the crowd, occasionally stopping to greet acquaintances. I followed, increasingly aware of how different this reality was from what Andrew had led me to believe. These weren't shallow people who would judge me for my appearance. Patricia Harrison hadn't batted an eye at my scars. We found William near the silent auction display, deep in conversation with an elderly gentleman. William was tall, distinguished in his tuxedo, with silver hair and a neatly trimmed beard that partially concealed but didn't hide the scar running down his right cheek. William, darling, Patricia interrupted gently. I've found Mrs. Morris. William turned, his face lighting with genuine pleasure. Mrs. Morris! Wonderful to meet you in person. He extended his hand, his grip firm and warm. Thank you again for supporting our foundation. Please, call me Isabel, I said, and the thanks should be mine. The work you're doing for veterans is remarkable. It's personal for me. William gestured to his scar. Shrapnel from an IED during Desert Storm. Not nearly as severe as what many of my fellow veterans endured, but enough to understand the challenges of being visibly different when you return to civilian life. I understand that all too well, I replied. Car accident, 25 years ago. You never quite get used to the stairs, do you? William's eyes reflected immediate comprehension. No, you don't. But you learn to focus on the people who see past it to who you really are. For the next 20 minutes, William shared stories of his military service and the injury that had scarred his face. He spoke with remarkable openness about the challenges he'd faced, returning to the financial industry with a visible difference. Banking and investment are all about inspiring confidence, he explained. Clients weren't always comfortable with a scarred face across the conference table. I had to work twice as hard to prove myself. That resonates with me, I said. I've been a hospital receptionist for 20 years. The first face people see when they're already anxious about medical appointments. There were definitely adjustment periods with new doctors and staff. Yet you persevered, William observed. What choice did I have? I was a single mother, with a young son to support. William's expression shifted to one of greater interest. A single mother? That couldn't have been easy, especially with the additional challenges of your injury. Before I could respond, a young woman approached our group, her smile bright and genuine. She was beautiful in a simple white gown, dark hair swept into an elegant updo. Dad, Mom, the silent auction closes in 20 minutes. You should put in your final bids. William placed his hand on the young woman's shoulder. Meredith, I'd like you to meet Isabel Morris. She's a first-time donor to the foundation with a personal connection to our mission. Meredith turned to me, her expression warm and engaged. It's wonderful to meet you, Mrs. Morris. Are you local or visiting for the gala? Local, I replied, my heart pounding at this unexpected encounter. I've lived in the area for most of my adult life. Mrs. Morris was just telling us about her experience as a single mother while dealing with facial scarring from a car accident, Patricia explained. Meredith's expression softened with immediate compassion. That must have been incredibly challenging. I work with children with facial differences as an occupational therapist, but the parents' struggles often go unacknowledged. They're the unsung heroes in the journey. That's a lovely perspective, I said, genuinely touched by her insight. Mrs. Morris made a very generous donation to our Veterans Support Program, William added. Thank you for supporting my family's foundation, Meredith said earnestly. It means the world to us, especially to my father. This work has been his passion since before I was born. As we continued chatting, Meredith shared stories of her young patients, her enthusiasm for her work evident in every word. She described a summer camp for children with facial differences that the foundation sponsored each year, her face animated with genuine joy. "You should come speak to the children sometime," she suggested suddenly. "They love meeting adults who've navigated the world with similar challenges. It gives them hope for their futures." "I'd be honored," I replied, stunned by the invitation. "Wonderful. I'm getting married in a few weeks, but after the honeymoon, I'll be running the August session. I could introduce you as a guest speaker." Before I could respond, Meredith's expression brightened as she looked over my shoulder. "Oh, there's Andrew. I want him to meet you, Mrs. Morris. You two have so much in common with your dedication to helping others." My stomach dropped as I realized the moment of truth had arrived. I turned slowly to see Andrew approaching across the ballroom, confidence in his stride, utterly unaware of the collision course his two separate worlds were on. Meredith waved enthusiastically, catching his attention. For a brief moment, Andrew's face showed only love as he gazed at his fiancée. Then his eyes shifted to the group surrounding her, moving from William to Patricia to me. The blood drained from his face so rapidly I feared he might faint. He stopped mid-stride, frozen in obvious shock and horror. Meredith, oblivious to his reaction, gestured him over eagerly. "Andrew, come meet Mrs. Morris. She's made a wonderful donation to Dad's foundation. She works with people with facial differences, too." Andrew approached slowly, each step visibly painful. His expression cycled through shock, fear, anger, and finally settled into a tight, artificial smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Mrs. Morris," he said stiffly, extending his hand. "A pleasure to meet you." I took his hand, feeling the clammy sweat of his palm against mine. "Mr. Morris," I replied evenly. "Congratulations on your engagement." Meredith beamed between us. "Isn't this wonderful, Andrew? Mrs. Morris has offered to speak at the summer camp for kids with facial differences. I was just telling her she'd be an inspiration to the children." Andrew's smile remained fixed, his eyes pleading silently with me. How thoughtful. "Mrs. Morris was just sharing her experience as a single mother," William added, clapping Andrew on the shoulder, "raising a son alone while dealing with the challenges of facial scarring. Remarkable strength." "Yes," Andrew managed. "Remarkable." "Darling, could I speak with you privately for a moment?" Meredith asked Andrew. "We need to finalize our silent auction bids before it closes." As Meredith led Andrew away, he threw one last desperate glance over his shoulder at me. The message in his eyes was clear. "Please don't say anything." "What a lovely couple," I commented to William and Patricia. "You must be very proud of your daughter." "We are," Patricia agreed warmly. "And we're quite impressed with Andrew as well. He's built a remarkable career from humble beginnings." "William mentioned you lead a support group?" I inquired, deliberately changing the subject. For the next 10 minutes, we discussed the Foundation's various programs. I was genuinely interested, asking thoughtful questions about their approach and outcomes. William seemed increasingly impressed by my insights. "You know," he said finally, "we're always looking for board members with personal experience who can help guide our programming. Would you be interested in learning more about getting involved at that level?" Before I could respond, I noticed Andrew approaching alone, his expression grim and determined. "Mr. Harrison, Mrs. Harrison, would you excuse us? I'd like to speak with Mrs. Morris privately for a moment about the summer camp opportunity." William nodded amiably. "Of course. Isabel, we'll continue our conversation later." As the Harrisons moved away, Andrew gripped my elbow tightly, steering me toward a side hallway off the main ballroom. "What the hell are you doing here?" he hissed once we were alone. The moment we were out of sight of the other guests, Andrew's carefully maintained facade crumbled. "What the hell are you doing here?" he demanded again, his voice low but intense. "How did you even find out about this gala?" I kept my voice steady, refusing to match his anger. "I made a donation to a worthy cause. The Harrison Foundation does important work for people like me, and apparently, like William Harrison himself." Andrew ran a hand through his hair, disheveling its perfect styling. "This isn't about William. This is about you showing up here without warning, trying to ruin everything. Ruin what, exactly? Your elaborate fiction? The one where I died of cancer 7 years ago? His eyes widened in shock. How did you know about that? Your future mother-in-law called to invite me to Meredith's surprise bridal shower. She expressed how meaningful it would be to honor my memory at the wedding. My voice remained calm, but I couldn't keep the hurt from showing in my eyes. My memory, Andrew. Because as far as everyone here knows, I'm dead. He glanced nervously toward the ballroom. Keep your voice down. We can talk about this later. When? After the wedding I'm too ugly to attend? Or perhaps at my fictional grave? You don't understand, he insisted. Meredith's family is different. Yes, they certainly are. William Harrison has facial scarring not so different from mine. He runs a foundation dedicated to helping people with visible differences. Meredith works with children with facial differences. They're exactly the type of people who would understand and accept me. Andrew's expression darkened. It's not the same. William's scar is from military service. It's honorable. Yours is just unfortunate. The casual cruelty of his words stole my breath. Just unfortunate? I got these scars rushing to pick you up from school, Andrew. I was a single mother, working 2 jobs to give you every opportunity after your father died. There's nothing unfortunate or shameful about my scars. Look, Andrew lowered his voice further. I've worked incredibly hard to build this life, to be accepted by the Harrisons. William is mentoring me at the firm. We're moving into their social circle. Everything is perfect. Please don't ruin this for me. By existing? By refusing to remain conveniently dead? You could have at least warned me you were coming tonight. Like you warned me I was dead? Or that I wasn't welcome at your wedding? Andrew's jaw tightened. I know what I said on the phone was harsh. I was stressed about the wedding plans. But showing up here isn't the answer. I didn't come to create a scene, Andrew. I came because I refused to be erased from your life as though I were something shameful. It's my wedding day, he insisted. The most important day of my life. Is it really so much to ask that for once, just once, it be perfect? Without having to explain your face to everyone? My face? I repeated, a new calm settling over me. You've been welcomed into a family where the patriarch himself has facial scarring, where your fiancé works with children with facial differences every day. Yet you're telling me with a straight face that my scars would somehow ruin your perfect day? It's different, he insisted again. No, Andrew. What's different is your character. The young man I raised would never have been ashamed of his mother, regardless of what she looked like. The young man I raised understood that appearances don't define a person's worth. Andrew glanced at his watch. I need to get back to Meredith. We can finish this conversation another time. There won't be another time, I said quietly. You've made your choice very clear. You chose a narrative where I don't exist, because it was more convenient than acknowledging the mother who sacrificed everything for you. As Andrew turned to leave, a soft voice came from behind us. Andrew? What's going on? We both turned to see Meredith standing at the entrance to the hallway, concern etched across her beautiful face. Nothing, Andrew said quickly. Just discussing Mrs. Morris's potential involvement with the summer camp. Meredith looked between us, clearly sensing the tension. It sounded more serious than that. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, Andrew assured her, moving to take her arm. I took a deep breath, knowing this moment would define all our futures. Actually, Meredith, there's something you should know. Andrew's face paled. Mom, don't. The word hung in the air between us. Meredith's expression shifted from confusion to shock. Mom? She repeated, looking at me with new eyes. You're Andrew's mother? But that's not possible. Andrew's mother died of cancer years ago. No, I said gently. I'm very much alive. Meredith turned to Andrew, disbelief and confusion warring on her face. What is she talking about? You told me your mother died when you were in college. Andrew's mouth opened and closed without sound, no explanation forthcoming. I was in a car accident 25 years ago, I explained when Andrew remained silent. It left me with these facial scars. Andrew recently told me that I'm too ugly to attend your wedding, that I would embarrass him in front of your family. Meredith's hand flew to her mouth. That can't be true. Andrew would never say something so cruel. Ask him, I suggested quietly. Meredith turned to Andrew, her eyes pleading. Tell me this isn't true. Tell me you didn't hide your mother's existence and then exclude her from our wedding because of facial scars. Andrew's shoulders slumped in defeat. You don't understand. I wanted everything to be perfect for you, for your family. By lying to me? By telling me your mother was dead when she was alive and well? By hiding her from me because of how she looks? Each question rose in volume and intensity. I was going to tell you the truth eventually, Andrew insisted. When? After we were married? Were you going to keep your mother a secret forever? Deny her the chance to know her grandchildren someday? Meredith's voice broke on the last question, tears welling in her eyes. It wasn't like that, Andrew protested weakly. Then what was it like? Meredith demanded. Explain to me how any of this makes sense. Before Andrew could respond, William and Patricia appeared behind Meredith. What's going on here? William asked, his tone concerned rather than accusatory. We heard raised voices. Meredith turned to her parents, tears now flowing freely. Andrew lied to us. Mrs. Morris isn't just a donor. She's his mother. His very much alive mother, who he told us died of cancer years ago. Patricia gasped audibly. What? But you've spoken about your mother's death so many times. The grief counseling you went through. How it motivated your career choices. All lies, Meredith said bitterly. He was ashamed of her scars and didn't want her at our wedding. William's expression hardened as he looked at Andrew. Is this true? Andrew stood frozen, trapped by the weight of his deceptions. Andrew told me I'm too ugly to attend the wedding, I confirmed quietly. That my face would embarrass him in front of Meredith's family. William touched his own scarred cheek unconsciously. In front of our family? A family dedicated to supporting people with visible differences? His voice was dangerously quiet. A family where I myself have lived with facial scarring for 30 years? It wasn't about that, Andrew tried desperately. It was complicated. Actually, it seems quite simple, William replied coldly. You lied to my daughter. You lied to my family. You created an elaborate fiction about your mother's death while she was alive and well. And you did all this while claiming to admire our foundation's work. Your foundation's work is what got me the interview at your firm, Andrew admitted, his voice small. I researched your personal history, your military service, your facial scar. I knew it would create a connection. William took a step back, visibly shaken by this confession. You leveraged my injury and life's work for career advancement, while simultaneously rejecting your own mother for similar scarring? Do I understand you correctly? Andrew had no response, his carefully constructed world collapsing around him. I need some air, Meredith said suddenly, turning away. I can't even look at you right now, Andrew. As Meredith hurried away, Patricia following closely behind, William fixed Andrew with a deeply disappointed stare. I've built my career on judging character, Mr. Morris. I clearly made a grievous error in your case. He turned to me. Isabel, I apologize profoundly for what you've endured. Please know you are welcome in our home and our family, regardless of what happens between our children. With that, William followed his wife and daughter, leaving Andrew and me alone in the hallway. Andrew slumped against the wall, all pretense abandoned. Are you happy now? You've ruined everything. No, Andrew, I said sadly. You did that all on your own. I left the gala shortly after the confrontation, declining Franklin's offer to come inside and escort me out. I can manage, I assured him over the phone. It's done now. At home, I removed my elegant dress and carefully hung it in the closet. The evening had unfolded in ways I couldn't have anticipated. I had expected anger from Andrew, perhaps even public embarrassment. I hadn't expected to witness the potential collapse of his engagement or career. Despite everything, my heart ached for him. Not for the man who had cruelly rejected me, but for the boy I had raised, who had somehow lost his way so completely. For the next week, I heard nothing from Andrew. I returned to both jobs, finding comfort in routine and in sharing limited details with Grace and Franklin. The support group on Thursday provided additional solace, the members understanding without needing every painful detail. 7 days after the gala, Andrew appeared on my doorstep. Gone was the polished investment banker in designer suits. This Andrew was unshaven, his eyes shadowed with exhaustion, his shoulders slumped in defeat. "May I come in?" he asked, his voice rough. I stepped aside silently, leading him to the living room where he had played as a child. The room hadn't changed much over the years, still containing photo albums and mementos of his childhood. Andrew sat heavily on the couch, staring at his hands. "Meredith has postponed the wedding. She says she needs time to reconsider whether she can marry someone capable of such deception." I sat in the armchair across from him, keeping my expression neutral. "I'm sorry to hear that." "Are you?" He looked up, a flash of the old anger in his eyes. "Isn't this exactly what you wanted?" "No, Andrew. I wanted my son to see me as a person worthy of respect and love, not an embarrassment to be hidden away. I wanted to be acknowledged as your mother, with all that entails. I never wanted to hurt you or destroy your relationship. William has removed me from the leadership track at the firm," Andrew continued flatly. "I'm not fired, but my career trajectory has definitely changed." "That must be difficult," I acknowledged. "Why did you do it, Mom? Why did you show up at the gala? You could have confronted me privately." "I tried that. When you told me I couldn't attend the wedding, I asked for an explanation. You said I was too ugly to be seen with your new family." Andrew winced at the reminder of his words. I was stressed. The wedding planning, work pressure. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. "Didn't you? You told Meredith and her family I was dead, Andrew. That wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment. That was a deliberate, sustained lie." "I didn't know how to tell them the truth after it started," he admitted. "It began so simply. When Meredith asked about my family early in our relationship, I mentioned Dad's death. She assumed you had also passed, and I let her believe it. It seemed easier than explaining your accident, the scars. After that, the lie grew. Each time I spoke about you in the past tense, it became harder to correct. And at no point did you consider how I would feel, being erased from your life, being denied the chance to know your future wife, to attend your wedding, to potentially know your children someday?" Andrew's eyes filled with tears for the first time. "I was so focused on being accepted by the Harrisons, on building the perfect life. I convinced myself it was necessary. Why? William Harrison has facial scarring himself. Meredith works with children with facial differences. They, of all people, would understand." "That's just it," Andrew said quietly. "William's scar is a badge of honor from military service. His foundation work is admired in their social circle. Your scars, they're just common, ordinary, the result of a random accident." The casual cruelty of his assessment stunned me into silence. "I don't mean it negatively," he continued, oblivious. "It's just different. William leveraged his injury into philanthropy, connections, social standing. Your scars just are. My scars are the price I paid for being your mother," I said finally, my voice steady despite the hurt. "I was rushing to pick you up from school that day. I worked 2 jobs with these scars on my face to put you through college. I sat at the back of auditoriums and on the far side of soccer fields to spare you embarrassment while never missing a single important moment of your life." Andrew looked away, unable to meet my eyes. "You see William's scars as honorable because of how he used them to build something meaningful. You never recognized that I did exactly the same thing, in a quieter, less publicly acknowledged way. I built you, Andrew. Everything you are, every opportunity you've had, came from my willingness to face the world with these scars and keep going for your sake." For several minutes, Andrew sat in silence, his breathing uneven as he fought against tears. "I've made a mess of everything," he finally whispered. "Meredith may never forgive me. William certainly won't. My career is derailed. And worst of all, I've hurt you in ways I can't even fully comprehend yet. Yes, I agreed simply. You have. How do I fix this? Tell me what to do, Mom. Please. I shook my head slowly. I can't tell you that, Andrew. This isn't something I can fix for you, like a scraped knee or a difficult homework assignment. This is about who you've become as a person, the values you hold, how you treat those who love you. Only you can decide if you want to change that. Andrew left an hour later, no closer to solutions, but perhaps beginning to understand the depth of his failures. As I watched him drive away, I wondered if our relationship could ever heal from such a profound breach of trust and respect. 2 months later, a handwritten letter arrived from Meredith. The elegant stationery contained a message that brought both pain and hope. "Dear Isabel," she wrote, "I want to apologize for the hurt that's been caused to you, both by Andrew's actions and by our family's unwitting participation in your erasure from his life. After much reflection and many difficult conversations, Andrew and I have decided to continue our relationship, though on a different timeline and with a commitment to counseling together. Andrew has begun volunteer work with my father's foundation, specifically with veterans with facial injuries. It's been a challenging but illuminating experience for him. My father has agreed to mentor Andrew, not primarily in business anymore, but in understanding the deeper values our family holds dear. If you're willing, I would still very much like to know you. Not as a tragic figure from Andrew's past, but as the remarkable woman who raised him and who may someday be my children's grandmother. With respect and hope, Meredith." 3 months after the gala, a much smaller wedding took place. The grand hotel ballroom was replaced by the Harrison family's garden. The hundreds of guests were reduced to 50 close family members and friends. I sat in the front row, my scarred face fully visible, wearing a simple blue dress that Grace had helped me select. During the reception, Andrew clinked his glass for attention. The small gathering quieted as he stood, looking more mature than I'd ever seen him. "I want to thank everyone for being here today, especially my mother, Isabel," he said, his voice steady as he looked directly at me. "Mom, you taught me what real strength looks like, though it took me far too long to recognize it. You showed up every day, through pain and hardship and judgment, to give me a better life than you had. I failed to honor that gift, but I promised to spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of it." Later that evening, as the small celebration continued, William sought me out. In the 3 months since the gala, we had spoken several times, his respect for me growing with each conversation. "I hope you know you're welcome in our family, Isabel," he said, touching his scarred cheek unconsciously. "Perhaps more than welcome. Needed." "Needed?" I echoed, surprised. "Andrew has a long journey ahead to become the man he's capable of being. He needs you to help guide him. And selfishly, I could use your perspective with the Foundation's work. Your experience bridges worlds in ways mine never could." In the months that followed, I began working part-time with the Harrison Foundation, specifically with their program for children with facial differences. My hospital allowed me to reduce my hours, the foundation work providing both financial compensation and profound personal fulfillment. Andrew and Meredith bought a home just 30 minutes from mine, close enough for regular visits but with healthy separation. Their weekly dinners at my house became a tradition, sometimes joined by William and Patricia, occasionally by Grace and Franklin as well. 6 months after the wedding, we gathered at my home to celebrate my birthday. As we sat around the dinner table, I looked at the faces surrounding me. Andrew, still working to become a better man. Meredith, whose compassion had allowed for second chances. William and Patricia, whose values had ultimately prevailed. Grace and Franklin, whose friendship had given me strength when I needed it most. "I never imagined this," I admitted, gesturing to all of them. "A year ago, I was alone with my hurt and anger, feeling erased from my own son's life." "I'm so sorry, Mom," Andrew said quietly. "I know," I acknowledged. "But that's not my point. My point is that sometimes the painful journeys lead us to places we never expected to go. A year ago, I would have said that Andrew's cruel words had broken my heart beyond repair. Today, I can see they were the catalyst for all of us finding a deeper truth about ourselves and each other. William raised his glass. To painful truths that lead to healing. As the evening wound down, Andrew helped me clear the dishes while the others chatted in the living room. I still don't understand how you found the strength to forgive me, he said quietly. After what I did. What I said about your appearance. I looked at my son, seeing both the man he had become and the boy he had been. Forgiveness doesn't mean what you did was acceptable. It means I refuse to let it destroy both of us. Your actions were deeply hurtful, Andrew, but they didn't define you completely any more than my scars define me. I don't deserve your wisdom, he said, eyes downcast. No one deserves wisdom, I replied. It's earned through pain and reflection. My scars gave me a perspective you couldn't understand until you faced your own form of scarring. The damage to your relationship, your career, your self-image, those were painful but necessary wounds that allowed you to finally see beyond appearances. Andrew nodded slowly. I'm still learning. We all are, I assured him. That's the point of the journey. True beauty, I've discovered, isn't found in perfect features or unblemished skin. It's revealed in the moments when we see beyond appearances to recognize the human spirit beneath. My scars taught me that lesson through 25 years of stares and whispers. Andrew learned it through the painful consequences of his own shallow values. The most profound scars aren't the ones visible on our skin, but the ones we inflict on our souls when we forget what truly matters. Healing those deeper wounds requires more than time or medical intervention. It demands courage, truth, and the willingness to see ourselves and others clearly, without flinching from what we discover. My son once said I was too ugly to attend his wedding. In teaching him the painful lesson that followed, I found not only my voice, but my purpose, and ultimately, a family larger and more accepting than I ever imagined possible. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself when someone made you feel less than because of your appearance? What did you learn from that experience? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that their worth isn't determined by their appearance. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you the courage to embrace your own unique beauty, whatever form it takes.